Suprabhatam, Suswagatam. I welcome all the new yoga therapy participants who have joined us yesterday. Every morning between 7:15 to 8 o'clock, we meet here for what we call Maitri Milan, the friendship meet. And we chant 18 verses selected from Bhagavad Gita from various chapters, which depict either of the four streams of yoga: the Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. The speciality of our Indian culture is that all these streams of yoga lead to the same goal. And this is part of the entire culture in which there is a unity in diversity. For example, when a foreign tourist travels India, he finds bewildering diversity. Everything is different. People are different, languages different, customs, manners, habits, everything is different. And therefore, they will see when they walk through the streets are different, buildings are different, restaurants and food and temples, everything different. Very diverse. And there is no single book, as in Bible or Quran. There is no single prophet like Christ or Muhammad, nor there is single God. So, naturally a doubt arises. How can there be a single culture? Is there a fundamental basis? And therefore they cannot see this subtle underlying unity. And they get confused, they get bewildered. हमारे देश में संस्कृत इतना वैविध्यमय है, जो बाहर से लोग आते हैं उसको समझने के लिए बहुत मुश्किल है, क्योंकि अंदर के जो रहस्य है, सूत्र से जो अंदर जोड़ा गया है, उसको समझना बहुत मुश्किल है. So unless we understand, it is very difficult. Whereas in the West, things are very easy to understand because everything is uniform, same language, same skin, buildings, cities, with downtown residential areas, the same McDonald's, same Pizza Hut, super bazaars, everything is same. You get the same quality of pizza wherever you go. In pizza, single God, single prophet, the same 10 commandments, same type of churches, Sunday services, everything is so uniform. Therefore, it's very easy to understand the monolithic culture. So if you see one city, like New York, you don't have to see many other cities. They're all essentially modes. Residential area, then the business area, the computer industry area, like this. So uniformity is a Western model. That's the one that helped in mass production, which is key in technology. Whereas diversity is the Indian model. Naturally a question comes, why diversity? Because diversity is the creative manifest. And unless you understand the unity, you cannot understand the diversity and the monolithic dimension. What is that unity which is at the base of all these diverse things? We call that as God in this country. If you don't want to use the word God, no problem. You can call it in scientific terminology as reality, consciousness. Or Patanjali called it as Kaivalya. Buddha called it as Nirvana. Bhagavad Gita calls it Brahma Nirvana. And Vedanta calls it as Moksha. Whatever term we want to use. That is the common link for all the diverse things that we see. ये वैविध्य में जो हमारा संस्कृति है, उसका मूलाधार है भगवान. भगवान ऐसा माना नहीं चाहिए, कोई बात नहीं, आप उसको सच बोलिए. नहीं तो कविवाले बोलता है पतंजलि ने, निर्वाण बताया बुद्ध ने, ब्रह्म निर्वाण भगवद गीता में बताया, मोक्ष वेदांत में बताया, जो भी उपयोग कीजिए, कोई बात नहीं. परंतु ये हमारा मूलाधार है. उसका हमारे से क्या संबंध है? ये ही हमारा आत्म स्वरूप है, परम आत्मा. सब लोगों का आत्मा यही है, मूल आधार है. What the connection of this God to us? That is our original state from where all of us have come. All creation has emerged out of this ultimate reality. So what exists is only that reality. All that we see otherwise are only its manifestation, its appearances, its external outbursts. How can you say this world is also the same God? In modern science we have understood that every object that we see is made out of energy. How? Made out of molecules, atoms, neutrons, protons, electrons, fundamental particles. They are all made out of quarks. They are energy equals mc square, the famous equation. The same way, the whole universe is made out of the same consciousness, pure consciousness. Then what is the difference between energy and consciousness? Energy is fluid, is dead matter, whereas the consciousness is intelligence. It can move by itself, it can change by itself, it can expand by itself, it can completely change by itself. That is the consciousness. That is the difference between the energy which forms the basis of this entire physical world and consciousness which forms the basis of the whole creation. And all other things that we see, the changes, are basically the energy manifests, the consciousness manifests. And Shankaracharya calls it as Maya. Maya is not illusion. Maya is practically valid, but theoretically has no existence. How can you understand this? Take a simple example. You go to a jewelry shop. In the top it is written, here all jewels are made out of pure gold. Nothing but pure gold, 100% gold they have written. You go inside. You have varieties and varieties of jewelry. Bangles, necklaces, earrings and whatnot. Hundreds and thousands of varieties. More fascinating, wonderfully fascinating. What I do is, from each of these jewels, I will take away gold. Gold away from necklace, gold away from gold, take away from bangles, and all these things you take away. What remains? Then what is it we call as a bangle? What is it we call as a necklace? What is it we call as a earring? Vacharambhanam namadheyam vrittikaiva satyam, you say. The Upanishad proclaims that what is real is only the gold there. Similarly, varieties of parts. What is real is only the clay. Then what is that shape? Small part, big part, English parts, they are all creative manifests. If you ask a question whether they have an existence of their own, if the gold is taken away, do they have an existence? They are only nama and rupa, name, form, sound. Sound and pictures, audio visual. The entire world that we see around, the whole creation that we see, is nothing but this nama and rupa. They do not have an existence of their own. Yathaisa purushe chaya etasmin adatam. Just like we have a shadow. Without the body, how can there be shadow? So the world is nothing but shadow of the entire Paramatma, ultimate reality. So this is what is called Maya. Maya has Vyavaharika Satta, but not Paramarthika Satta. That means it has got validity, but not the reality. What is the definition of reality? The reality is the one that does not change. Therefore, pure consciousness is the one that exists everywhere. It has no birth, it has no death. Na jayate, na priyate, tadavachate. So seeing gold in all ornaments, seeing water in all waves in the ocean, seeing clay in all variety of parts, that is the underlying unity. You have varieties and diverse comes, but there is an underlying unity. That's what we have to see. what we have is called civilization. What we are is called culture. So civilization may be very great, but culture may be almost a zero. Similarly, culture may be very wonderful, but civilization may be in a lower. But when you have both of these things in their excellent condition, we call it as the ideal society. Ramana described 3 types of civilization, societies. Sri Lanka civilization, Sri Lanka society. Yesterday I was telling how Valmiki describes the Sundarakanda, the wonderful Sri Lanka, with fantastic armory, with richness, abundant, infinite richness, and roads, and gardens, and fountains, and food material, everything immaculately grand. Civilization in the highest ebb. Even today's civilization in the United States, other place, is very small compared to what Ravana had at that time. But what about his culture? Artha and Kama. No values. Adharma. He was drawn as a slave to sex. Ego. So, that culture is the lowest step. On the other side, we have the Kishkinda society. They are all Vanaras. Hardly they had any civilization outside. Hardly any roads. Maybe a few buildings here and there. And their culture was so great. We had a Hanuman. We had a Sugriva, stuck to the words and supporting total dharma. While Ayodhya is the grandeur in both. It matched the civilization of Sri Lanka, but it was subordinated to the culture. When Sri Rama had the conflict, when he was asked to go to the forest by the mother, he was to be the crown prince the next day. And the previous day, Kaikeyi says he has to go. Please follow the dictum, the boon that Dasharatha has given me. Rama had no second thought. He said, Pitruvakya Paripalana, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava are the dictums and the values. And when there is a conflict between Artha, the money, kingship, crown prince, and the values, Dharma reign. So, Artha and Kama has to be put into the framework of Dharma. That's what has been demonstrated in Ayodhya. The same thing happened with Ravana. Everybody told him, advised him, come on, give back Sita, let us stop this treacherous war. Until Indrajit was almost realized. Everybody thought, yes, Indrajit is there and we are going to win the race. Even Indrajit was so arrogant, yes, we are going to win over this. But finally in the war, when he threw the Brahmastra on the Lakshmana, you are finished now. And he says, what happened? The Brahmastra went round Lakshmana and came back. And Indrajit was flabbergasted. So he called Brahma. What happened? Brahmastra is the biggest weapon. I have put that. And why you did not kill? Then Brahma says, remember what I have said when I gave you the Brahmastra. Brahmastra is meant to smash the adharma and not the dharma. Brahmastra has to be used to promote the dharma. And Rama and Lakshmana are the embodiment of dharma. Therefore Brahmastra, Pashpatar, the Narayanastra cannot do anything for that. Then he realized. So he goes and advises his father, Ravana, please now give back Sita, because otherwise we will be doomed. Even Kumbhakarna is gone, others are gone, Katirata, Maharata, everybody gone. And what is the Ravana's response? Ravana says, no. If you can't do that, come back. I am going to go for the war. No. That was the response. When there is a conflict between Artha and Kama, compared to the Dharma, which is the one that we stick to, that makes all the difference of society, separate society. Bharat is known for this grand culture. When there is a conflict, always we stuck to the values. That is the culture. So, our culture was a highly developed one, based on the laws of the entire universe, entire creation. And those set of laws are called as the Sanatana Dharma, the most ancient dharmas, ancient laws. the basic laws of the whole creation. That's called Sanatana Dharma, ancient Dharma. Dharma is not that religion. Religion is a small part of that sattva aspect, goodness. But the spirituality, which forms the basis, is called the Sanatana Dharma, is a set of cosmic laws. Just like Newton's laws are there, the laws of quantum physics are there. Like this, the laws of the whole universe is Sanatana Dharma. So our culture was based on the Sanatana Dharma. So yoga and spirituality forms the basis of this Sanatana Dharma. The greatest contribution of India to world thought and culture is yoga, spirituality. And this is the most ancient science. What are those laws? The laws are put forth as Trinity. Very simple. Creation, sustenance and destruction. The whole creation is made out of these three laws. Laws of creation, the laws of sustenance and the laws of destruction. And this is the trifold law of the universe. ये सब वैविध्यमय जो संस्कृति है उसका मूलाधार है परमात्मा. और उसका नियम क्या है? संपूर्ण विश्व का नियम है सृष्टि स्थिति लय. और सर्व जगत ये तीनों नियमों से बनाया गया है. ये नियमों के साथ रहना ही धर्म है. अत्यंत प्राचीन धर्म है हमारा भारत का. अर्थ और काम हमारा जीवन का लक्ष्य नहीं होना चाहिए. अर्थ और काम चाहिए जरूर, परंतु वही हमारा लक्ष्य नहीं है. उसके द्वारा हम धर्म को पा सकते हैं, मोक्ष का प्राप्ति हो सकता है. धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष, धर्म को आधार देना पड़ेगा. जब तक ये नहीं देंगे अर्थ और काम से बनेगा नहीं, समाज भी नहीं बनेगा और आदमी भी नहीं बनेगा. उसका क्या विकृत दृश्य हो सकता है, कल बता रहा था. जो अधर्म के मार्ग में जाते हैं, सिर्फ अर्थ और काम को ही अपना जीवन का लक्ष्य बनाते हैं, उसका जीवन क्या होता है? इतने बीमारियां, इतना बीमारियां है और तनाव इतना ज्यादा हो गया है और समाज इतना संक्लिष्ट स्तर पर है. क्यों? अर्थ और काम को ही जीवन का लक्ष्य बनाया और समाज के सृष्टि का मूल आधार बनाया है और उसके ऊपर समाज का सृष्टि हो रहा है. हमारे यहां भी हुआ था बहुत पहले. चारवाका जो दर्शन था उसके आधार पर जीवन में अर्थ और काम ही प्रमुख है, वही सर्वस्व है, इसके आगे और कुछ नहीं है. भगवान ये सब कुछ नहीं है. जब हम मरते हैं पूरा हो गया, इसलिए किसी ढंग से तुम पैसा बनाओ, खाओ पियो और मजा करो, यही जीवन का लक्ष्य है. बस यही हमारा लक्ष्य था. ये चारवाका फिलॉसफी है. उधर भी हमारे समाज में हुआ था, परंतु उसके बाद हम उसको समझ लिया इससे होगा नहीं, आदर्श समाज का सृष्टि नहीं होगा और आदमी बहुत आनंद से, सुख से, स्वास्थ्य से नहीं रह पाएगा. ये सब समझ लिया पूरा प्रयोग से. और उसके बाद अलग अलग दर्शन आ गया, षट दर्शन हो गया, न्याय, वैशेषिका, सांख्य, योग, पूर्व मीमांस, उत्तर मीमांस. उत्तर मीमांस परमावधि है, उपनिषद है, तो ज्ञान योग जिसको बोलते हैं, ये सब आ गया. तो इसके आधार पर हमारे जीवन को बनाना है. ये मूल नियमों के अनुसार काम करना है. आज साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में क्या करते हैं? ये क्वांटम मैकेनिक्स के आधार पर, न्यूटोनियन मैकेनिक्स के आधार पर पूरा हम देखते हैं और उसी के आधार पर जीवन को बनाते हैं. सोसाइटी को, समाज को बनाना चाहते हैं. इसी ढंग से हम, यदि आदर्श समाज का सृष्टि चाहिए, यदि आदमी बहुत आनंद से, स्वास्थ्य से रहना है, तो उसको क्या करना है? संपूर्ण अपना जीवन का आदर्श जो है अर्थ और काम, उसको धर्म के चौकट पे रखना है. इससे मोक्ष प्राप्ति हो सकता है. मोक्ष ही हमारा मूल स्वरूप है. These are the threefold laws. Okay, to easily understand, so that everybody can understand that, we gave them some names. Just like science gave E equals mc square, just like we gave some names for the laws related to creation, is called Brahma. Brahma, Dirgha. And laws of sustenance is Vishnu. The laws of destruction is Shiva or Parameshvara, Ishvara. Beyond all this Srishti Sthiti Laya, is Brahman, ultimate reality. Moksha, Kaivalya, Nirvana, pure consciousness, reality, whatever you want to call. That is at the base, that does not change. So, Prapancha or the Srishti, creation, goes on changing and changing and changing. Look at the body. A billion cells get created every day. A billion cells get destroyed every day. By the time we came here, all our bodies have totally changed. We have a new body since you came to this hall. And what to talk about the mind and the emotions, the intellect, everything changing. All the Panchakoshas are changing. But beyond the Panchakoshas, there is something that is unchanging. Na jayate, na mriyate, kadachita, nayam bhutva, bhavita, vana bhuyaha, ajo nitya shashvatoyam puranaha, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Krishna is telling to Arjuna the dimension. So, then what is the goal of our lives? What should be? To move towards that ultimate reality. To move towards our original state. That's our real home. What is the speciality of that real home? Tremendous amount of bliss. And total knowledge, total freedom. And we need to manifest that divinity. We have forgotten, we have come here. We left home, several thousands and thousands of years back. Therefore, we have totally forgotten our real home. The most joyful home, the happiest home we have left, and they are in the complete dukkha, stresses, diseases, and all these things are coming. What should be done? To start moving towards that home, the real home, Krishna is telling. So Vivekananda says, manifest that divinity. Remember, you are infinite consciousness, you are pure consciousness, you are that all-pervasive reality, and not the small body. We are like the ocean, we are not just drops of the ocean. So that goal is built into our lives, whether we know it or not. Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and all the Prasthanatrayas give us that wisdom base. They say, please understand that the goal of life, to manifest the divinity, is innately built in us. How can you say, you all want more and more happiness, more and more happiness? Why do you want to move from one job to another job? Here you are getting 50,000, you want a lakh, therefore you are moving. Why? You have innate notion that more the money you have, happier you are. Therefore you want to go there. So seeking bliss is the innate urge in everybody. And to avoid the misery. Dukkha nivrittihi, sukha praptihi is innately built in every one of us. Why? Because basically we are that infinite consciousness. Aspiring for knowledge. We are a student, want to know more and more. Scientists, intelligence, everybody wants to know more and more. Mechanism, everything we want to know. Zeal for power. Everybody wants power. I want to be a minister. I want to be the chief minister. I want to be the prime minister. No, power. I want to be the richest businessman. I want to be the millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. I want to be a trillionaire. I want to be the richest person in the world. And Alexander the Great, he wanted to be the emperor of the whole world. That is the zeal for power in every one of us. And quest for freedom. Freedom from all miseries. Freedom from all bondages. We want to be free. We don't want to be imposed by anybody else. We don't want to be slaves. We want to be free. Freedom. The watchword in the United States. They built up a society, freedom. But that freedom without understanding became a license. Therefore, it's all built into it. So Bhagavad Gita gives us this grand vision, the methodology, the wisdom base, and that is what we call as yoga. This is the broadest text of yoga, probably the in-depth and the most comprehensive text of yoga. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. Every chapter is called as a yoga. Krishna says even Arjuna Vishada is a yoga. Arjuna Vishada yoga. Even the melancholy of Arjuna is the yoga. How can dukkha be yoga? Because of the Vishada, because of the conflict he got, conflict between ethics and morality one side and duty another side, Arjuna got into a big conflict. And that conflict made him realize the higher dimensions of life unraveled by Krishna to him in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Vishada was a way by which he could raise higher the conflicts or the transition to raise from sattva to gunatita sthiti. So even Vishada is a yoga. In life, we get many challenges, we get many dukkhas. These are all to be taken as the wonderful opportunities for us to grow. God provides various ways by which we can grow and grow and grow. But what we do, we want to just curb it, we just want to suppress it, and we don't want to run away from that. What yoga says is face it and see that understanding comes up. You will be able to grow higher. So Vishada is not a curse, but it's a boon. In our Arogyadhama, we had a very wonderful CEO who was suffering from intense diabetes. And when he came here, he got wonderful results. His insulin was reduced and he turned into tablets, only diabetes and others, within just 3 weeks of his stay here. And when he was going on the feedback on the Thursday when they give, he first came and told all people, I thank my diabetes. I consider diabetes as a boon for me. Everybody got surprised. What? How can diabetes be a boon? He said, but for diabetes, I would not have come here to Prashanti. Had I not come, I would have missed something fantastic which our culture presents. The wisdom base, the total approach, the total existence of man, the Panchakoshas, and how the diseases are manifested from the Gunomaya Kosha Adi to becoming the Vyadhi. All that I would not have learned. Therefore, should I not thank diabetes? This is what is conveyed in the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. We should learn to thank the Vishada, the misery, the dukkha, the tensions and the stresses that are provided, which help us to grow. But you must learn how to grow using that. Convert every difficulties, every misery, every conflict into an opportunity. That is the secret that Krishna gives in this Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, you have all the other things. Every chapter, 18 chapters are all the Bhagavad Gita. Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga. No, yoga, everything is a yoga. All the 4 streams of yoga, Gnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, unity and diversity, are all knit into Bhagavad Gita. The most wonderful Smriti Prasthana that we have in our country. Very easy to understand. At the same time, it is so deep, so wonderful. Let's contemplate on these thoughts. Sit tight. सीधा बैठ के आंख बंद करके ध्यान करेंगे. Relax all parts of the body. Beautiful smile on the face. Take a deep breath and slowly breathe out. Look at the thoughts. Go to the source from where all thoughts emerge. You need to carefully, subtly search inside. If the mind is too fast, you cannot do that. So slow down, calm down your mind. Again, take a deep breath and slowly breathe out if the mind is too fast. See different thoughts coming and going in the mind. When you slow down the thoughts, you can easily recognize the gap between the thoughts. The thought comes up, reaches the peak, and goes down. When the next thought comes, goes up, and subsides. Next thought is created, is sustained for a while and is destroyed. After each destruction, before the next creation, there is a gap. Silence, peace. तो चित्तवृत्तियों के बीच में जो शांति है, मौन है, उसको ढूंढना, पहचानना. As we slow down further, we understand that there is a vast, infinite silence in which the thoughts come and go. Like waves coming up in a ocean and going down, thoughts come and go down in that ocean of silence. All-pervasive field of silence is the Anandamaya Kosha. That infinite peace, the field of silence, is what you call as Anandamaya Kosha, what you call as Ananda, bliss, happiness. Let us tune ourselves to that infinite silence, Ananta Samapatti. As Patanjali says, anchor ourselves to our original home of infinite peace, infinite bliss. And as we march ahead, let us manifest the fragrance of that love, bliss and peace to everyone whom we meet today. A process of sharing and sharing, giving and giving, dana, from the foundation of our culture. Let us imbibe that. Let us manifest throughout the day good acts of service. Minimum five good acts which will ennoble us, divinize us. We learn to manifest. Namaskar Mudra. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya